Huh. Here we go. Hello?
Hello, is this Mr. Milligan?
Yes, it is. How are you doing today?
Good, this is Officer Tim Montgomery.
Great. It's nice to hear from you.
Nice to hear from you. So what can I help you with today?
Yeah, I have some issues that are going on in the neighborhood, and there are some crimes that are not being addressed, and I don't really know where to begin with explaining it all. But I need some help from the police, and I've reached out and I've not gotten it yet. So how can I get resolution to some things that are going on in my neighborhood?
Well, I'm going to start out by saying I'm filling in right now on your precinct. So Patty is not on the precinct anymore. She went somewhere else. So
okay.
I'm filling in. And I'm doing two precincts right now. I'm presently covering two precincts. I'm new to this job.
Okay.
And I just want to explain to you that I'm a resource. I may not be able to solve your problem, but I may be able to direct you to somebody that may be able to solve your problems.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically what my job is. So I don't know exactly what your problem is, other than you were talking about some things that were going on in your neighborhood.
Yeah. There were two imposters that came into the neighborhood and scammed some of my neighbors into believing that they were real, and they were telling lies about my past and present. And I believe that the neighbors are still under the belief that these are real officers of the law. And what they've done is they have spread these lies with government authority all over the community, and have done things that have made drastic changes to my life. I've got evidence of the crimes being committed, and there's a neighbor that I need to speak with about it, and she has not been willing to meet with me or do any of that. So having a voice of authority with me after showing you the evidence that I have would be a huge help in having a conversation with her, if that's possible.
So what kind of things are going on? I mean, what kind of crimes are you talking about?
Well, basically, my neighbors are trying to get me to move out of my home, and they have decided to use a mental illness diagnosis in order to get that to occur. There have been 24 hospitalizations that have been performed in the last 5 years by the MCR unit and by NetCare that were originally spurred on by the neighbors. The narratives in many of those evaluations and stays of detention are false, and that's just hearsay, though. It goes back and forth. But there's evidence of 4 stays of detention being performed in a 6-week time period in the fall of 2020. And my neighbor across the street is responsible for a large majority of those. I don't know what she is trying to do, but she's been abusing the probate court system, and it's basically ruined my entire life. I think, but I do not know, that she was told that I had a serious mental illness in June 2019, when I did not have a serious diagnosis. So I believe that she was misled and performed a whole bunch of document gathering events in order to make it look like I am mentally ill. It's kind of a twisted story, but I don't know how to get resolution other than getting the information from her. And I have her evidence in a 911 transcript, in a number of 911 transcripts, repeating the lies to the police. And it sounds like that she is being believed of it by the police. I don't know that either. I've tried reaching out to internal affairs, to 2 community liaison officers, and I've not gotten anywhere. So I'd really like to be able to move on with my life and try and salvage what I can from this horrible situation. I don't know what to say about my neighbor across the street because she won't talk to me about the situation. I continue to tell her that she was scammed, but she does not believe me because I'm not a voice of authority. And the voice of authority says that my claims are delusional beliefs. And that is not the case because I have evidence to the contrary. So I need this fixed.
What kind of evidence do you have?
The, quote, Secret Service apparently appeared at her doorstep after meeting with me at my house on the day that I returned from Washington, D.C. In the 911 transcript that I have of my neighbor, the two men told her that I was followed back by them from D.C. to Ohio. That is not true because they were parked on the street when I pulled into my driveway. They also said that I got in trouble in D.C. and was arrested by the Washington police. If you pull my arrest record, you will find that I was not arrested by the police. There are a number of ways to verify if this person that drives license plate HLL 9533 actually worked for the government or not. And it would be really easy to find out by looking at the tax returns from 2019. So my evidence is based off of her own words repeating the lies told to her that I know are not true about my life and that can be verified by records.
Okay. So if it's not true, then why are you worrying about it?
Because the people have a goal of getting me removed from my home. And
you own your home?
I do own my home.
Okay.
And there is a problem with my neighbor believing that claiming a mental illness is going to be grounds for removing me from my home and doing all this action that has really affected my life.
Well, I can tell you, if somebody was saying things about me and trying to get me, in a jam, things that weren't true, and there's proof that it's not true, I wouldn't worry about it, and I wouldn't associate with them anymore. I wouldn't push the issue with them. I just wouldn't associate with them anymore.
Yeah.
They can believe what they want to believe. People can believe what they want to believe about you. If it's not true, it's not true. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Unfortunately, what's happened is she has gotten an entire neighborhood to believe as she does. And these people are still continuing to coach her and my other neighbor, Arvid Ashby, on what to do to try and get this illegal goal to happen. And if she's going around telling people that the government says this, the government says that it creates a very hostile environment for me where I gain no support from anybody. And the police's belief, at least through MCR, that the real crime that occurred are delusional beliefs is ridiculous and false. But yet they keep using that as a reason not to investigate. I did fill out a report in October, the 22nd of 2021, and it was never investigated and dismissed as a miscellaneous incident. And now it doesn't even appear on the online portal. There are other crimes like hacking into and gaining access of my Google account, my Microsoft account, my Facebook account, and deletion of everything on my iCloud prior to March of 2018. And I think it's connected to the people that my neighbor believes are the real government. I don't know who this organization is or what it is, but it is not the government. And I need to get to the bottom of it because it's affecting my entire life. Does that make some sense?
I mean, I guess a little bit of sense. I mean, I don't understand all of it, but like I said, I mean, if things aren't true and you can prove they're not true, personally, my personal opinion, I wouldn't worry about it. I wouldn't associate with people that have that opinion of me. I wouldn't worry about it. I'd live my life in my house that I pay for and do what I do. I just wouldn't worry about it. I mean, that's my personal opinion. I mean, that's how I live my life. If somebody next door doesn't like me, I don't care if you don't like me. This is my house. I have a right to live here, and I'm going to stay living here.
Right.
No matter what you say or do, it's not true.
Yes, I do. I do see what you're saying. Where I'm coming from is the repeated actions, though, that have created false imprisonment over and over and over again that removes me from my home every single fucking time it happens is ridiculous. I can obviously not even hold down a job if I'm being hauled off to the mental hospital every couple months. Nobody would keep me hired.
When's the last time that happened?
The last time that I was falsely imprisoned?
That you were taken to the hospital?
It was 2 weeks ago. And then before that, it was June 23rd. And I was actually in internal affairs trying to get help from them. And in comes MCR, detaining me. It's really messed up. I'm not sure exactly where all the problems are coming from. When I was detained, Officer Scofani told me that I didn't have a license and that my license was suspended. And that's not true. I don't know where he's getting his information from. And I've asked him to provide that, and I've not gotten anywhere. I don't know what's going on with the police and with my neighbor and with a believed connection to the government, but it's ridiculous, and I need to get to the bottom of it. I don't know if a detective is going to be helpful or not, but neighbors have definitely been involved in some activity with this group that's not very kosher.
So when do they typically call us to come out there? Have you had an interaction with these neighbors and they get upset with you, or I mean, when do they typically call the police to come out?
Yeah, I don't know, because the police accept anonymous tips, so anybody can call and make an anonymous tip, and then that will get Netcare called, which they'll open up a case, and then they're aware of Patty Ryan across the street, and will go over to her for verification of things, and then they will perform a stay of detention. And this is the pattern that gets repeated over and over and over again. It's
well, I'm probably going to have to do some research to come up with what's going on and see what, you know what I mean?
That would be excellent. I would really appreciate your help with that.
See what's going on, how people are coming to your house and all that. I'm going to have to look into that.
That sounds good. One of the stays of detention last summer.
I don't know if I'll be able to come up with a solution. But part of my solution was what I told you, earlier is, you can't sit and worry about what people say and think about you.
Right.
Because you have a right to live in the neighborhood. You have a right to live in your house. Sometimes you just gotta, mind your own business and just go on with what you got going on and don't worry about them.
Right. And it also, Ironically, it sounds like it would be something that a paranoid schizophrenic would say. But the fact that my neighbor continues to do all of these things only points to one conclusion that I can draw, is that she was told by who she thinks is the government that that they would like me to not live where I live, and they asked for her help. And that's the only thing that I can think of. And the only conclusion I can draw based off of the information. So having a conversation with her with the police present would be a godsend. And
well, we can't force her to talk to us. We can't force anybody to talk to us. So I can't walk over there and force her to talk to me or talk to you. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I'm not able to go over there because she filed a trespassing notice against me when I told her in a letter that I was going to sue if the behavior in the neighborhood didn't stop. This was in 2020. And she called that a threatening letter and convinced the police to give me an official trespassing notice. So she's able to kind of avoid speaking to me. And I've tried, since learning all of this information through 911 transcripts in June, all of the lies that were told about me, I've tried pretty much nonstop to get her help, and she's not been willing to help out at all with any information.
Well, again, like I said, you can't force her to help you. I can't force her to help you. I mean, she's got to be willing to help you, and if she's not willing, I don't know where else you're going to go. I don't know what else you're going to do to force her to.
The approach I was kind of thinking about was to help her not commit any more crime, because if she is under the belief that this guy is legit and real and is from the government, she's doing things and saying things in a voice of authority that are not true, which is committing a crime. So it would be in her best interest to be informed that she was scammed. Do you know what I mean?
How long ago did this scam take place?
It was late June of 2019.
2019, so it took place almost, 3-4 years ago?
Yes.
Okay.
And they have continued to come out, and I have documents of that with license plate numbers, dates, and times when they've entered the neighborhood again, and had meetings with Patty and Arvid, my other next door neighbor. Yeah, it's really bizarre. And I think that they were thinking that they were really from the government. I don't know where they came from, but they don't seem willing to help me, and I think there was a belief at one time, maybe even told by them, that I was a drug dealer. I'm not a drug dealer. But
have you tried to get a hold of anybody in the government to see if they're sending somebody out?
Yes, I have. I've tried to contact the Secret Service themselves to get verification that they have not come out to see my neighbor, because it would be very odd for the government to send a representative out for the sole purpose of telling lies about one neighbor to another neighbor. That should be a tip-off right there, that this is a scam. But for whatever reason, she doesn't believe that it's a scam. She thinks it's real. Yeah, it's...
Well, there's another thing. You're not... nobody can control what she thinks or doesn't think. You can't control that either. You can't, like I said, you can't make anybody like you. You can't make anybody dislike you. You can't control what they think or say. That's just, everybody has the freedom of speech and the freedom to think what they want to think. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate, but that happens. People are like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I wonder at what point it changes over to slander and libel and becomes a crime.
I mean, you'd have to have proof probably that the person is saying it. I mean,
which is what I have in the 911 transcripts. You know, I have her repeating lies that are pretty scandalous, you know, stating that somebody...
It just depends on where this information came. I mean, if she was falsely told this information and believes it, you know, I don't know that you could hold her accountable for something that she thought somebody was real that was telling her this information. I mean, I don't know.
Right.
I'm not a detective by any chance, you know what I mean?
Right,
I don't know
right.
ins and outs of that, so.
And I'm kind of thinking...
Let me do some research,
okay.
See what's going on, and I'll try to call you back next week.
That sounds excellent.
Because I'm off tomorrow, and on Sunday, I'm off Sunday and Monday, so I'm off for the next 3 days, so.
Okay.
I will try to call you back and see what I can find out. I may have to call you and ask you some more questions, but
that sounds fine.
Like I said, just kind of take my advice and just don't worry about what you think they're saying or whatever. Just don't worry about what they're thinking about it. Just live your life.
I definitely agree with you. On the same token, having him visit on Wednesday, my next door neighbor, after being not visible in the neighborhood for a while, raises a little bit of a concern with me. You know.
He visited you?
No, he visited my next door neighbor, Arvid, on Wednesday morning.
So another neighbor visited another neighbor,
No,
next door neighbor.
The imposter suspect.
How do you know this guy's an imposter?
Because he was over at my neighbor's house in the backyard and repeated the lie that, quote, we told her that we followed him back to Ohio. That's the statement that was in the 911 transcript that Patty says about the Secret Service saying that I was followed back to Ohio.
Huh.
Yeah. I basically solved my own case.
Did you go to Washington, D.C.?
I did, but I was not followed back because I stayed.
Did you drive there? You drive there?
I did drive there. And okay. I stayed for a week.
That's a long drive, isn't it?
It is a long drive. I stayed for a week in a hotel, and I was basically the only guest in the hotel, and there weren't hardly any other guests. And
when did you go?
I went in June 20th, 21st, actually, 2019.
Okay.
And I stayed for about a week. I arrived back home 28th or 29th. And when I pulled into my driveway, these two imposters were sitting in their vehicles at the street. So that's another point of evidence that proves...
They came up and talked to you?
They came up and they spoke with me before they went over to speak with Patty.
Who they identify themselves as?
The Secret Service.
Huh.
Yeah. So there's quite a bit of evidence to show that I've got the right people. And I think with my neighbor Patty's help, that this can all be resolved and fixed. The only problem is I believe that she thinks that I'm some sort of criminal or something that is to be rid of the neighborhood.
How long have you lived in that house?
17 years. And I've only had these problems the last 7.
How long has your neighbor next to Patty, Ryan, lived across from him?
The entire time. Okay. So she knows me.
What's your address again?
434 Midgard Road.
434 Midgard.
Mm-hmm.
G-A-R-D?
G-A-R-D, yes.
Okay.
And Patty is actually 433 Midgard Road.
Okay. All right. Well, like I said, try to have a good weekend.
I will.
I will try to do a little investigation on this.
I very much appreciate your time.
I'm dealing with 2 different precincts, so I got a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
But I will try in my free time here to look into this a little bit harder to see what's been going on and transpiring. Okay.
I'd really appreciate it. Sergeant Castro has assigned an officer to deal with issues I've been having with the Division of Police, and his name is Officer Lutz, Lutz.
Okay.
I have requested a meeting with Patty to kind of iron this all out, among other things. And if I can have your email address, I'll be happy to forward you some of the information if it wouldn't be too overwhelming. But Officer Lutz hasn't done anything for me at all, and not looked into anything. And I actually don't know his title, but he's involved in what's going on in the neighborhood too. So
yeah.
That's another
Maybe
lead.
I'll reach out to him. Maybe I'll reach out to him and see what he knows.
That sounds fine with me.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Thank you very much for your time.
No problem, sir.
Have a great weekend.
See you later.
Okay. Bye.
All right, you too. Bye.
I don't know if I'm any closer or not. I can only hope. I have worked my ass off to get my shitty neighbor across the way to stop stalking me with figures of authority to get me moved. And this is my life. Because she wants something. Something I own. If you can believe that.